For years, it felt like home values in America's mountain towns could do nothing but climb. That assumption has just been shattered. In some of these once booming communities, prices have dropped as much as 32%, wiping out years of gains almost overnight. Airbnb income has dried up, homeowners are being dropped by insurance companies, and longtime residents are walking away altogether. This isn't a small dip or a temporary slowdown. It's a full-blown real estate collapse unfolding in the middle of the country. From California all the way to Colorado and from Utah up through Montana, resort towns that were once considered untouchable are now unraveling one after another. Places people believed were immune to downturns are suddenly facing the harshest corrections in decades. In this video, we're breaking down the 10 mountain towns taking the biggest hits in 2026, using hard numbers, real-world examples, and straightforward analysis to show what's actually happening. You'll see how the market is falling apart, which homeowners and investors are getting wiped out, and the lesser-known risks quietly putting even more pressure on these areas. If you're thinking about buying property in the mountains, whether for vacations, rental income, or retirement, you need to watch this all the way through. A single bad decision right now could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, or worse, trap you in a home you can't sell, can't rent out, and may not even be able to insure or live in. And don't worry, this isn't about fear-mongering. I'm not here to hype panic. I'm here to walk you through the data most people would rather ignore. So which town do you think is falling the fastest? Aspen? Vail? Or a place nobody sees coming? Number 10. Vail, Colorado. What was once a winter wonderland is now slowly coming undone. For decades, Vail represented the polished, luxury version of the American dream. World-class skiing, sprawling timber chalets worth millions, and an elite mountain lifestyle wrapped in snow and status. On the surface, it still looks glamorous. But underneath, the market is unraveling fast. Vail isn't just slipping, it's in a steep freefall, and there's nothing gentle about it. This market is being crushed from every angle at once. Prices remain painfully high, the cost of ownership keeps climbing, liquidity has dried up, and the local community is quietly backing away. According to data from the Vail Board of Realtors, real estate transactions in Vail Village are down more than 70% compared to the post-pandemic peak. That doesn't mean prices fell 70%. It means buyers have almost completely disappeared. And when there are no buyers, the market doesn't stall. It dies. There isn't a single cause behind the collapse, but the cost of simply holding property in Vail is a good place to start. High-end condos now come with average HOA fees exceeding $2,000 every single month, and that's before taxes, insurance, or basic maintenance. If you're not living there full-time, you're essentially paying a fortune to maintain an empty showpiece, a museum no one visits. Selling isn't much better. Zillow data shows that the average home in Vail now sits on the market for more than 180 days. That's 6 months just to maybe find a buyer, and only if you're willing to cut the price. Redfin reports average price reductions of roughly 12%, meaning a condo once listed at $5 million might close closer to $4.4 million, and that's considered a win. What makes this worse is that Vail has always been more than a place to live. It's been a status investment. But tastes among wealthy buyers are shifting. Today's high-net-worth crowd is choosing places like Jackson Hole, Big Sky, or even Sun Valley, destinations that feel newer, looser, and less expensive to maintain. By comparison, many of Vail's condo buildings, constructed in the 1980s, now feel dated rather than classic. What once felt iconic now feels stuck in time. Even the town itself is feeling the strain. Vail is currently facing a $20 million budget shortfall as tourism-driven retail tax revenue collapses. Fewer visitors mean less spending, fewer residents, and more dark windows at night. The population is shrinking, inventory is sitting, and vacant homes are becoming the norm. At this point, this isn't just about falling home values. It's a deeper question about identity and sustainability. Is Vail simply going through a rough cycle, or is it beginning a long, irreversible decline? What do you think? Can Vail reinvent itself, or is this the start of something permanent? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe as we break down the remaining 9 towns caught in this historic real estate collapse. Number 9. Truckee, California. This is what happens when the Airbnb dream turns into a financial trap. Not long ago, Truckee was seen as the perfect balance: mountain living, fresh air, and steady income from short-term rentals. It promised nature without sacrifice and profit without pain. But today, this Lake Tahoe mountain town is paying the price for the very investment boom that once made it famous. What looked like a dream opportunity is now breaking down, piece by piece. Take Rick and Susan, for example. They're both retired engineers in their early 60s from San Jose. In 2021, they bought a rustic cabin in Truckee for $1.2 million, confident that Airbnb income would help support their retirement. At first, it worked. The property brought in more than $6,000 a month in bookings. Fast forward to today, and more than 70% of their calendar is empty. On top of that, their home insurance premium has nearly doubled. What was supposed to be passive income has become a constant source of stress. And their situation is far from unique. In mid-2023, Truckee's local government rolled out strict new limits on short-term rental permits, following a trend seen across California. Overnight, the number of homes legally allowed to operate as Airbnbs dropped sharply. Data from AirDNA shows bookings in Truckee are down as much as 45% compared to the same time period just a few years ago. Meanwhile, the housing market itself has stalled. According to figures from Sierra Sotheby's, the median home price in Truckee has fallen roughly 18% from its 2022 high. Even after that decline, prices still hover around $950,000, more than 2.5 times what the average local household can realistically afford. That leaves the market stuck in an uncomfortable middle ground. Too expensive for locals, yet no longer attractive enough for investors chasing returns. Another warning sign is how long homes are sitting unsold. The average time to sell a property in Truckee has climbed to 162 days, nearly double what it was back in 2021. And complicating matters even further, major insurance providers like State Farm and Allstate have pulled back from California altogether. In wildfire-prone areas like Truckee, finding coverage has become both difficult and painfully expensive. So who's still buying here? The honest answer is almost no one. The market is effectively frozen. Sellers who need to exit can't find buyers, and potential buyers are too cautious to step in. Everyone is waiting, and nothing is moving. Truckee is now a cautionary tale, a town that rode the wave of short-term rental hype and is now dealing with the fallout. When regulations tighten and risks multiply, an Airbnb strategy can quickly flip from income generator to debt burden. Do you know someone who bought property in Truckee during the boom years? Do they still own it today? Share their experience or your own in the comments, and stay tuned for town number 8, where even million-dollar homes are being slashed in price just to stay afloat. Number 8. Crested, Butte, Colorado. When fighting speculation ends up trapping an entire town. Crested Butte was once considered one of Colorado's last true hidden gems. Storybook scenery, carefully preserved character, dramatic mountain backdrops, and a deeply rooted arts culture gave it a charm that felt untouched by time. This wasn't Vail. It wasn't flashy or corporate. Crested Butte attracted people who wanted a genuine connection to nature and community. Ironically, that very desire to protect its identity has pushed the town into a crisis of its own creation. In 2022, the town council made headlines by approving a 2-year freeze on all new short-term rental permits. The decision was widely praised at the time. The goal was simple: protect housing for locals and stop outside investors from turning homes into Airbnbs. On paper, it sounded like a win for the community. In reality, the policy froze everything. The ban didn't just shut out investors, it locked up the entire housing market. Residents who needed to sell or rent suddenly had no viable options. Take Melanie Shaw, for example. She's a high school teacher who was born and raised in Crested Butte and lived there for more than 22 years. When her landlord decided to sell, she couldn't find another place to live. With rentals scarce and prices surging, she was forced to leave the town she had called home for decades. The short-term rental ban also tightened the long-term rental supply even further, pushing out not newcomers, but longtime locals. What was meant to protect residents ended up displacing them. The numbers back this up. According to the Gunnison Crested Butte Association of Realtors, total real estate transaction volume fell by 60% in just 1 year. Homes priced above $3 million saw sales collapse by 80%. The average property now sits on the market for around 210 days, roughly 3 times the statewide average. And the strain isn't just financial. Community tensions are reaching a boiling point. Town council meetings have grown heated and chaotic, with residents sharply divided. One side is determined to preserve the town's character at any cost. The other is desperate, watching their ability to live in this so-called paradise slip away. As if that weren't enough, insurance costs are exploding due to increasing wildfire risk. One recently quoted example involved a $4 million home facing an annual insurance premium of $70,000. That's nearly $6,000 per month before factoring in property taxes or maintenance. Here's the cruel irony. Crested Butte is no longer the town standing up to outside investors. It's now a place investors won't touch at all. And the people paying the highest price aren't billionaires fleeing big cities. They're the families and workers who have lived here their entire lives. So what do you think about extreme Airbnb bans like this one? Should communities protect themselves by effectively shutting down the market, or does that create even bigger problems? Share your thoughts in the comments, because what's happening in Crested Butte could be a preview of what many other towns face next. Number 7. Big Sky, Montana. Once imagined as a peaceful mountain escape, it's now starting to show the cost of that dream. Big Sky sits high in the dramatic landscape of Gallatin County, surrounded by wide-open skies and rugged peaks. For years, it's been marketed as the perfect destination for second homes, vacation properties, and resort-style investments. On the surface, it still looks like a nature lover's paradise. But if you're thinking about moving here long-term, or investing with the expectation of safety, you need to look past the scenery. Not long ago, Big Sky was celebrated for its clean air, outdoor lifestyle, and strong vacation demand. Today, the numbers tell a more complicated story. Recent data shows the median home price hovering around $1.84 million, down roughly 2.2% over the past year. At the same time, the median listing price jumped to about $2.6 million by August 2025, an increase of more than 13% year over year. That gap is a warning sign. Sellers are asking for more, but buyers aren't showing up in the same numbers. Homes are also taking longer to move. The average time to sell in Big Sky is now around 129 days, noticeably higher than in previous years. That matters more than most people realize. If you buy here and later need to exit quickly, you may find yourself stuck waiting far longer than planned. So who feels the pressure the most? If you're over 50 and considering Big Sky as a place to settle down, the prices alone put it out of reach for most retirees. If you're buying as a vacation rental investor, demand is cooling while competition keeps growing, more properties chasing fewer renters. And if your plan is to live there first and rent it out later, ownership costs can be brutal. Mountain homes come with expensive winter maintenance, road access issues, specialized services, and rising exposure to natural risks like wildfires, heavy snowfall, and extreme weather. Montana has seen an increase in wildfire activity in recent years, and as insurance becomes more expensive or harder to obtain altogether, ownership costs could rise sharply and unexpectedly. Here's the key tension in Big Sky right now. Prices are still firmly in luxury territory, but liquidity is fading. You might negotiate a better deal on the way in, but getting out when you need to could be much harder. If you retire here and later decide to sell, you may end up waiting on the next buyer longer than you ever planned. And that's not the situation most people want when they're looking for stability, not speculation. So what do you think? Does Big Sky still make sense for buyers over 50 who want mountain living and peace of mind? Or has it quietly shifted into a playground for wealthy speculators while everyday buyers absorb the costs and risks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Prices are softening, the market is changing, and if you don't want to get caught off guard, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Number 6. Edwards, Colorado. This isn't just another scenic dot on a mountain map. It's a real town where people who actually want to live are now feeling the strain of an investment-heavy resort economy. Set in Eagle County, Edwards was once viewed as the practical alternative for workers supporting nearby resort areas. It offered proximity to Vail without Vail-level prices, and for a while, long-term living still felt achievable. That balance, however, is starting to disappear. Today, the median home price in Edwards sits around $1.7 million. In the higher-end segments, listings still climb toward $3 million. Yet despite those lofty numbers, prices have fallen nearly 22% compared to this time last year. That kind of drop signals a market under pressure, sliding downward, but still searching for a floor. Sales activity tells an even clearer story. Transaction volume is extremely low. There are plenty of sellers but very few serious buyers. Liquidity is thin, and that creates risk for anyone who may need to sell later. But the biggest concern here goes beyond pricing. It's the growing environmental risk. Nearly every property in Edwards falls within zones projected to face a high wildfire risk over the next 30 years. Buying a home here isn't just about affordability or appreciation anymore. It's a long-term gamble where each summer brings uncertainty, and insurance availability and costs hang over every decision. For buyers over 50 looking for a retirement spot or a stable relocation option, Edwards has become a much harder sell. Living expenses continue to rise, home prices remain elevated, and wildfire exposure adds a layer of stress many retirees aren't prepared for. Without a strong, reliable income or a substantial financial cushion, settling here could quickly feel overwhelming. One local teacher shared that it took her more than a year to secure a rental she could afford. Too many homes had been absorbed into the investment market. She now drives nearly an hour each way to work because living near her school is no longer possible. That story captures what's happening in Edwards. A town that once supported a year-round community is slowly transforming into a place occupied only part-time, homes filled for a few weeks a year, while full-time residents are pushed farther out. So what do you think? Does Edwards still function as a real place to live? Or has it become just another temporary playground for investors? If you're over 50 and considering a move to the mountains, would this town make your list? Share your thoughts below. I genuinely want to hear what you think. Number 5. Sun Valley, Idaho. A name that sounds like an open invitation, but the reality is far more complicated. At first glance, Sun Valley feels like the definition of a peaceful retreat. Nestled in Idaho's Wood River mountain region, it offers dramatic scenery, fresh air, and a slower pace that once made it especially appealing to retirees. For years, people saw it as the perfect place to settle down, reconnect with nature, and enjoy a quieter chapter of life. Lately, though, that dream has been wearing thin. The local housing market is sending mixed and troubling signals. On paper, the median listing price has fallen to around $1.45 million, down more than 32% year over year. That sounds like a bargain. But here's the catch. The median sold price remains near $1.61 million, up roughly 13% over the same period. In other words, asking prices are dropping, but actual sale prices are still climbing, keeping homes out of reach for many would-be buyers. Sales activity is also extremely limited. In the most recent month, only about a dozen homes changed hands. Buyers are hesitant to step in, while sellers are reluctant to fully adjust expectations. The result is a market that looks active on the surface but is barely moving underneath. Linda's story puts a human face on those numbers. She's 63 and believes she had finally found her forever place. In 2023, she sold her home in Phoenix and purchased a townhouse in Sun Valley for nearly $900,000. Her plan was simple: spend half the year there, enjoy snowy winters, mild summers, and the calm of mountain life. But after just one winter, the reality hit hard. Maintenance costs climbed faster than expected. Wildfire insurance became a constant source of anxiety. And perhaps most unexpectedly, the community felt empty. Neighbors came and went, appearing for only a few weeks each year before disappearing again. As Linda put it, "It's beautiful here, but there's no one around to share it with." Sun Valley also faces a double layer of environmental risk. Every property in the area is classified as having high wildfire exposure over the next 30 years, and more than 30% sit within potential flood zones. When you combine elevated prices with escalating risks, the margin for error becomes very small. That raises a deeper question. Is Sun Valley truly a place to build a life? Or is it just a picturesque stopover for people chasing the image of a perfect postcard? What makes Sun Valley's situation unique isn't its size, but its identity crisis. It attracts people seeking long-term stability, yet its economy and housing market are driven by short-term vacation use. That tension is slowly pushing the town into a crisis that's easy to miss unless you look closely. So what do you think? Is Sun Valley still worth living in? Or has the dream drifted too far from reality? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 4. Mammoth Lakes. The name sounds powerful and untamed, but beneath the surface, this iconic mountain town is caught in a downward spiral. Mammoth Lakes was once the go-to winter escape for Southern Californians, a place synonymous with snow-packed seasons and non-stop tourism. Today, many investors describe it very differently. What used to feel like a lively ski hub now feels eerily quiet, like a rink after the lights are turned off. The first cracks came from the weather itself. The 2024 to 2025 winter delivered one of the weakest snowfall seasons in the past decade. Ski resorts were forced to operate below capacity, and visitor numbers dropped sharply. As a result, Airbnbs that once filled effortlessly during peak season sat empty. When tourism revenue falls, real estate usually follows, and Mammoth Lakes was no exception. Local data shows home values have declined between 20 and 25% over the last 18 months. A property that could command $1.2 million in 2022 is now sitting near $950,000, with buyers nowhere in sight. Homes are also taking far longer to sell. Average days on market have climbed past 120 days, roughly double what they were just 2 years ago. The market isn't crashing loudly, it's fading quietly. James, a 58-year-old homeowner, shared a story that rattled many investors. He purchased a condo specifically for short-term rental income. But after a disappointing winter season with little snow and even fewer bookings, he ended up paying nearly $20,000 out of pocket just to cover HOA fees, maintenance, and property taxes. The situation worsened when the town introduced strict limits on new Airbnb permits to protect local housing, effectively trapping hundreds of owners like James. As he put it bluntly, "I can't rent it, I can't sell it, I'm just bleeding money." Everyday living costs offer no relief either. Because of transportation challenges and isolation, Mammoth Lakes ranks among the most expensive mountain towns in California for gas and groceries. And while snowfall is becoming less reliable, wildfire risk has surged dramatically over the past 5 years. In some areas, insurance coverage has been denied altogether. In others, premiums have doubled. What once made Mammoth Lakes attractive, its scenery, winter lifestyle, and resort appeal, is now becoming a liability. Investors are pulling back. Long-term residents are reconsidering. And the town's identity is under pressure. So what happens if the next winter also brings low snowfall? Does this market stabilize, or does it slide even further? Share your thoughts below. And if you're interested in real estate but want to avoid expensive mistakes, hit follow so you don't miss the updates that really matter. Number 3. Breckenridge. Once the crown jewel of Colorado's winter tourism economy, it's now feeling frozen, both on the streets and in the market. With more than 3 million visitors each year, Breckenridge was long viewed as a guaranteed winner. To many investors, it looked like a non-stop cash machine fueled by tourism and short-term rentals. But when the Airbnb boom was abruptly cut off, the entire system began to shake. The turning point came when the town introduced some of the strictest short-term rental regulations in the region. The impact was immediate and severe. Airbnb revenue collapsed by nearly 70%. Investors rushed for the exits, yet replacement buyers never arrived to fill the gap. Since then, real estate activity has gone into steady decline. Transactions have dropped for 6 straight quarters, while housing inventory has almost doubled. Even the town's iconic Main Street tells the story. Where crowds once packed the sidewalks, empty storefronts now dominate the view. There are currently 45 vacant commercial spaces, the highest number Breckenridge has ever recorded. Luxury homes haven't been spared either. Million-dollar properties that once sparked bidding wars within hours are now sitting idle for a year or more without a single serious inquiry. Demand didn't slow, it disappeared. Jack, a former technician who lived in Breckenridge for 15 years, shared what this shift looks like on a human level. As tourism declined, jobs dried up. At the same time, his rent doubled. Eventually, he had no choice but to leave. "Breckenridge has become a playground for the wealthy," he said bitterly, "but there's no one left to work here or serve them." That's the deeper issue now facing the town. The question isn't when prices will bounce back, it's who actually wants to live here year-round once winter ends. So what do you think? Is Breckenridge sliding into long-term decline, or is this just an extended off-season before a rebound? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Number 2. Park City, Utah. An icon of skiing, film, and fame. Yet behind the spotlight, the market is sliding fast. Park City built its reputation on world-class slopes and cultural prestige, anchored by the Sundance Film Festival. For years, it symbolized status, lifestyle, and investment potential. But beneath the glamour, the real estate market is losing momentum, and it's happening faster than many expected. The post-pandemic buying frenzy pushed home prices to extreme levels. That surge, however, has officially stalled. Today, Park City is facing a serious oversupply problem. Hundreds of newly built condos and townhomes are sitting vacant, waiting for buyers or renters who simply aren't showing up. At the same time, short-term rental rules are getting tighter, while demand from renters has dropped sharply. Market data shows average Airbnb rates have fallen by as much as 25%. Many investors now find themselves trapped in high-end properties that no longer generate income. Scott and Jen's situation highlights the problem. In 2022, they purchased a townhouse for $1.5 million, expecting rental income to cover the costs. Instead, they're now paying more than $8,000 per month in carrying expenses with no tenants in sight. As they put it, it's like owning a vacation home for our cash flow, permanently. Meanwhile, everyday life in Park City is becoming more expensive. The cost of living is the highest in Utah, yet winter employment opportunities are shrinking. Homes are taking longer to sell too. The average time on market has stretched beyond 150 days, inventory continues to pile up, and price cuts are now reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Park City was once compared to the next Aspen. Now the question has shifted. Is it following Aspen's path toward instability instead? So what do you think? Does Park City still work as a long-term place to live and invest? Or is it becoming a costly lesson in timing? Share your thoughts below. And if these numbers caught your attention, hit subscribe, because the next videos dive even deeper into what's really happening. Number 1. Aspen. The kind of town where simply existing feels expensive. For decades, Aspen has been the ultimate refuge for the ultra-wealthy, a place where a $40 million mansion might be visited once a year, if at all, just long enough to drop off ski gear. It built its reputation on exclusivity, scarcity, and the belief that prices here only move in one direction. That belief is now collapsing. After the pandemic, Aspen's real estate market exploded upward. Prices surged to historic highs. But the reversal has been brutal. According to MLS data, home values have fallen by roughly 32%. A property once marketed at $40 million has quietly slid down to around $28 million. Even more alarming, transaction volume has dropped over 65%. Inventory has ballooned by more than 200%, and selling a home now takes close to 9 months on average. Aspen survived for years on a simple assumption: homes here never lose value. That assumption has now been buried, deep under the snow. The slowdown isn't limited to housing. Luxury retail shops and art galleries are sitting empty. Tourist spending has softened, and travel disruptions from frequent snowstorms, flight delays, and tighter budgets are keeping visitors away. The town still looks glamorous, but the energy has faded. The most unsettling statistic may be this: roughly 60% of homes in Aspen sit vacant for more than 10 months out of the year. What used to feel exclusive now feels hollow, a gold-plated ghost town. And ownership costs continue to rise. Wildfire insurance has become so expensive it rivals luxury watches, and several major insurers have exited the market entirely. Ironically, if you happen to have millions to spare and want a place that's truly quiet, Aspen might be ideal. Not because of its natural beauty, but because most of your neighbors won't be there. So is Aspen still worth buying into right now? Or has the world's most famous ski town crossed into dangerous territory? We've just walked through 10 mountain towns that were once symbols of the American dream and are now sliding into financial uncertainty. From million-dollar homes sitting empty year-round to local communities slowly disappearing, the pattern is impossible to ignore. One thing is clear: the rules have changed. Don't let the winter scenery distract you. A beautiful mountain home is no longer an asset if it lacks liquidity, rental demand, insurance coverage, or a real community. If you're considering buying property in a resort town, proceed with caution. Compare prices against local incomes. Study insurance availability. Understand rental regulations. And most importantly, ask yourself who will still be living there alongside you 5 or 10 years from now. Which town concerns you the most? Is there a place you once believed was completely safe that now feels risky? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. And remember, the right decision today could save you from a very expensive nightmare tomorrow.